So today I'm going to be talking about the short story Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been by the author Joyce Carol Oates. Oates often wrote short stories for magazines and for articles, and this is one of her most commonly known or most famous stories. Oates wrote it originally as a dedication or as a tribute to Bob Dylan's famous song, or one of his famous songs, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. This was in 1966, and her short story came soon after. As I previously mentioned, she often wrote stories for magazines, which is kind of important in this story because I believe that since she wrote it from a magazine, it takes a more metaphorical standpoint or point of view. Many people often believe that there's two positions that you can take, and one is realist and one is metaphorical. I believe that the metaphorical standpoint makes a lot more sense because of the strangeness throughout the story. Arnold Friend is a really strange character, and he's described in a really weird way, and this obviously isn't for no reason. She had reason to write her stories, and she wouldn't have put those little details in there if it wasn't meant to be metaphorical. If this was from a realist standpoint, it wouldn't make much sense because the story is basically in the beginning talking about how Connie is a super confident character and she loves the way that she looks. She dresses for herself, and if the story was meant to be taken from a realist standpoint, the theme would be something like if you can't be too confident because, people like Arnold Friend are out there, which I don't believe, that's definitely something that's important. However, I don't believe that would be the meaning of her story because she makes the story seem more strange, and there's aspects that wouldn't make sense if it was a realist story. Some of these aspects that are super strange about Arnold that makes this more of a metaphorical story are definitely, first of all, the way that he is dressed, or not really the way that he's dressed, but the way that he stands and the way that he doesn't quite fit into his boots. His hair is also represented as super shaggy and not kept, and that's also a little bit strange to Connie. So, first of all, I'm going to talk about his boots. So, the story says that he doesn't fit into his boots quite right, and they're sort of almost falling off in a way. And also, he's leaning on things as if he can't stand up on his own. He's also walking strange and just acting strange in general. So this part is super important because since he can't stand in his shoes quite right, and since they don't seem to fit, he's leaning on things. That can be implied that he has hooves for feet rather than actual human feet, which is a strong implication, I guess you could say, that he is the devil, because the devil often is portrayed as having hooves for feet. Because of this, I do strongly believe that Arnold Friend is characterized as the devil, because he, not only this, but there's many other points in the story that it would make the most sense if this was a metaphorical story and if he was character of the devil, or if he was portrayed as exactly the devil. Along with his boots, he had many other strange features about him. He came to Connie's house and is basically threatening her the whole time. He's persuading her, and he's tempting her, which is something that the devil often does. The devil often tempts a person to come with him, basically. And that's exactly what Arnold Friend is doing. He's tempting Connie to come with him. He's threatening her family, and he's threatening to burn her house down, which is also symbolic and important, and I'll discuss that later. However, another thing that's super important is that he's tempting Connie. However, he says to her that he's not going to come inside of her house, which is super important because since he's implied to be the devil often tempts people. However, the devil can't come into your own personal space and take you out. He has to tempt you first. So that's exactly what Arnold Friend is doing. And he's saying to Connie that he's not going to come inside of her house. He's not going to do any of that. But he's going to threaten her family, and threaten to burn the house down if she doesn't come with him. So that's basically him tempting her, which is why it's strongly implied that he is actually the devil. This, as I discussed earlier, he did threaten to burn her house down if she didn't come with him. Now, this is another symbolic feature of the story because the devil and fire are strongly correlated. So if he's threatening to burn her house down rather than threatening to come inside, I think that that's super important, and it makes sense that this would be a more metaphorical story and that he's being represented as the devil. To wrap up, I definitely believe that this story is meant to be metaphorical and that Arnold Friend is definitely being portrayed as the devil.